June 21st, 1982, St. Mary's Hospital, Paddington, London. Diana was in labor with her first child, the heir to the throne, the baby the entire world was waiting for. She was 20 years old, terrified, in excruciating pain, and she had no idea what was happening in the room down the hall, had no idea the palace was already there, already controlling the narrative, already deciding what would be recorded and what would disappear. Dr. George Pinker was the royal obstetrician. He delivered royal babies for decades, had learned when medicine served the patient and when it served the crown. But what happened during William's birth, what he was ordered to erase, would haunt him until his death in 2007. The contractions started at 9 p.m. on June 20th. Diana was at Kensington Palace when her water broke. She grabbed the armrest of the sofa and doubled over. "Charles," she called out, "it's happening." He appeared in the doorway, looking startled. "Now? Are you certain?" Another contraction. Stronger this time. She grabbed his hand. "We need to go." Her voice was shaking, not with excitement, with terror. She was 20 years old, had no idea what to expect. Her mother, Frances, had barely spoken to her during the pregnancy. The royal family had given no guidance beyond "do your duty." Charles called for the car immediately. They arrived at St. Mary's at 10:15 p.m. Diana was taken to the private Lindo wing, the first Princess of Wales to give birth in a hospital instead of a palace, the first to break with centuries of royal tradition, and the palace hated her for it. The labor room was private, secure, monitored. Diana lay on the bed, gripping the rails. Another contraction hit. She cried out. "Breathe through it," Dr. Pinker said calmly. But Diana wasn't doing wonderfully. She was drowning. 20 years old, first baby. No mother to guide her. Charles stood awkwardly in the corner, looking uncomfortable. "Should I call someone?" He asked no one in particular. "Just stay with me," Diana gasped. "Please." But Charles moved toward the door. "I think I'll wait outside." "Charles, please." Diana's voice broke. Don't leave me." "You're in good hands." And he left her alone with the medical staff, alone with her pain and her fear. Diana felt tears streaming down her face. A midwife named Sarah Matthews took her hand. "Let him go. You don't need him. You're stronger than you know." "I'm not strong. I'm falling apart." Another contraction. Diana screamed. Sarah held her hand through it. Down the hall, in a small administrative office, something else was happening. Sir Marcus Pemberton had arrived at 11 p.m., Palace Private Secretary, the Queen's representative. He carried a leather briefcase and an air of absolute authority. "Dr. Pinker," he said, entering the office. "Sir Marcus, the princess is progressing well. I'm not here about her progress." Sir Marcus interrupted. He pulled out several thick folders. Diana's complete prenatal records. "These are the psychological evaluations from March and April, and the nutritionist reports documenting her eating disorder." Dr. Pinker's stomach dropped. Those files contained everything. Diana's depression, her bulimia, her anxiety attacks, the sessions where she'd admitted feeling trapped, suicidal, all documented, all real, all Diana's private truth. "Those are confidential medical records," Dr. Pinker said. "They are royal medical records," Sir Marcus corrected, "which means they belong to the crown, not to her." He laid the documents on the desk, started feeding them into the paper shredder. "These references to depression and suicidal ideation cannot exist. The Princess of Wales cannot have documented mental illness, not when she's giving birth to the future king." "You're asking me to falsify records," Dr. Pinker said. "I'm asking you to protect the monarchy." The shredder whirred. Diana's psychiatric evaluations disappeared. Questions would be raised about fitness, about hereditary concerns. The child's legitimacy could be challenged. Another page. Dr. Lipsage's notes about Diana's crying spells, about her saying she felt trapped in the marriage. Into the shredder. "The nutritionist's reports," Sir Marcus continued. "Charts showing dangerous weight loss during pregnancy. Notes about purging behaviors. Into the shredder." "Do you know what the press would do with this information?" Sir Marcus asked. "I know what the truth is," Dr. Pinker said quietly. "Diana needs help. Erasing these records doesn't erase her illness." "The truth," Sir Marcus said, "is what we decide it is. And we've decided Princess Diana is healthy. Are we clear?" Back in the labor room, Diana was crying. Not from physical pain, though that was overwhelming, but from loneliness. From the crushing realization that she was doing this alone. Charles had come back briefly, then left again. "I can't watch," he'd said. "It's too much." Diana wanted to scream at him. Wanted to say, "Too much for you? I'm the one giving birth." But another contraction hit and she couldn't speak, could only grip the rails and sob. A midwife named Sarah Matthews held her hand. "You're doing brilliantly," Sarah whispered. "So strong." Diana looked at her with desperate eyes. "I'm not strong. I'm terrified. Being terrified and doing it anyway is what strong means." Diana squeezed her hand, tried to believe it. At 1:30 a.m., Dr. Pinker returned to the labor room. His face was tight, stressed. He'd just spent 40 minutes watching Sir Marcus feed Diana's truth into a shredder. Page by page, report by report, Diana's depression, her bulimia, her suicidal thoughts. All of it turned into strips of paper. All of it erased from official record. But Diana didn't notice his distress. She was beyond noticing anything except pain. "How much longer?" she gasped between contractions. "You're at 8 centimeters, Dr. Pinker said. Nearly there." But his mind was elsewhere. Could still hear the whir of the shredder. Could still see Sir Marcus's cold eyes as he destroyed evidence. Could still feel his own cowardice for not stopping it. Diana was screaming again, and Dr. Pinker realized he was helping deliver her baby while her medical truth died in a back room. The irony was devastating. At 2:15 a.m., Diana was fully dilated. "It's time to push," Dr. Pinker said. Diana looked at him with exhausted eyes. "I can't," she whispered. "I have nothing left." "Yes, you can," Sarah Matthews said. "Your baby is coming." Another contraction built, massive, overwhelming. "Push now," Dr. Pinker commanded. Diana pushed, screamed, felt like her body was tearing apart. "Again, don't stop." She pushed again, and again. The pain was beyond anything she'd imagined. She thought she might die. "I can see the head," Dr. Pinker called. "One more." Diana gathered everything she had left, every ounce of strength in her exhausted body, and she pushed. At 9:03 p.m. on June 21, 1982, Prince William Arthur Philip Louis was born. 7 pounds, 1½ ounces. Diana collapsed back, sobbing. They placed the baby on her chest. Diana looked down at her son, at his tiny, perfect face, his small fists, his dark blue eyes. "Hello," she whispered. "Hello, my beautiful boy. I'm your mummy, and I love you so much." William's hand closed around her finger. Everything else disappeared. The loneliness, the fear, the pain. All of it faded when she looked at William. Charles came into the room. Finally, after nearly 12 hours away. He'd been in the hospital the whole time, just not with Diana. Had been reading newspapers in a waiting room, drinking tea, making phone calls, anything to avoid watching his wife give birth. He looked at his son with something like pride. Picked up the phone to call the Queen. "It's a boy, ma'am, healthy, 7 pounds. Diana watched him, still holding William. Watched Charles prioritize announcing the birth over actually being present for it. "Well done," he said awkwardly to Diana when he hung up. Not, "I'm proud of you," or "You were incredible." Just, "Well done." Like she'd completed a task. Like she'd fulfilled her royal duty by producing an heir. Diana looked back down at William. She didn't need Charles's approval anymore. She had something more important now. She had her son. Down the hall, Sir Marcus Pemberton was closing his briefcase. The shredder had done its work. Diana's psychiatric evaluations, gone. Her nutritionist reports documenting eating disorders, gone. Her therapy sessions, her crying spells, her admissions of feeling trapped. All of it reduced to strips of paper in a waste bin. The official record was now clean. Diana Spencer, Princess of Wales, had a normal, healthy pregnancy. No complications, no concerns, no mental health issues. That was the story. And that story was already being prepared for the press. Sir Marcus picked up the phone, called Buckingham Palace press office. "The princess has delivered a healthy baby boy at 9:03 p.m. Both mother and child are doing well. The pregnancy was uncomplicated and the delivery routine." He hung up. The lie was now official, would be in every newspaper by morning. Princess Diana, radiant mother of healthy air. No mention of depression, no mention of bulimia, no mention of the truth that had just been erased. Dr. Pinker went home at 4 a.m., exhausted, devastated, ashamed. He'd helped bring a beautiful baby into the world. Prince William, future king, healthy and perfect. But he'd also betrayed William's mother, had stood by while her medical truth was destroyed, had watched Sir Marcus feed page after page into that shredder. Diana's depression, her eating disorder, her anxiety, her admissions of feeling suicidal during pregnancy, all documented by professionals who'd tried to help her, all erased by a palace secretary who cared only about appearances, and Dr. Pinker had done nothing, had said nothing beyond weak protests, had chosen his position, his reputation, his career over Diana's right to have her truth documented. He sat in his car in the hospital parking lot, watched the sun rise over London, and cried. For Diana, for himself, for his profession's failure. Years later, in 1995, Dr. Pinker watched Diana's Panorama interview, heard her talk about bulimia, about depression, about feeling controlled and erased by the palace. They made me feel like I was going mad, Diana said on television. Dr. Pinker knew she wasn't mad, knew she'd been struggling since before William was born, knew because he'd seen the evaluations before Sir Marcus shredded them. In 2007, on his deathbed, Dr. Pinker told his daughter the truth. I destroyed Princess Diana's medical records, he whispered. The palace ordered me to erase evidence of her mental health struggles. I watched them shred the evaluations, watched them rewrite her story. And I said nothing. His daughter was shocked. Why didn't you refuse? Because I was a coward, Dr. Pinker said. Because I valued my position more than her truth. Because I told myself I was protecting the monarchy, but I was really just protecting myself. He died 3 days later, took the specific details to his grave, but his daughter remembered, and eventually she talked. Diana never knew what happened that night, never knew that while she was in labor, fighting to bring William into the world, the palace was in another room fighting to erase her reality. She knew her medical privacy had been violated over the years, knew the palace controlled her narrative, but she didn't know they'd started on the night William was born, didn't know they destroyed records while she was screaming in pain, didn't know Dr. Pinker, the man who helped deliver her son, had also helped destroy her truth. William was born healthy and perfect. Diana loved him with every fiber of her being. That love was real, documented, witnessed. But Diana's pain, her struggle, her psychiatric help, her eating disorder, that was erased, made unofficial, made to not matter. The palace decided which parts of Diana's story deserved to exist, and which parts needed to disappear. They made that decision on June 21st, 1982, while Diana was in labor, while she was vulnerable and alone and terrified, while she was bringing the future king into the world. That's when they decided her truth was expendable, that her mental health records were dangerous, that her reality needed to be controlled, and Dr. Pinker let it happen. Stood in that office and watched Sir Marcus feed page after page into the shredder, watched Diana's truth turn into strips of paper, into nothing. Years later, when people asked why Diana struggled so much after William's birth, why she seemed to deteriorate despite having a healthy baby, no one could point to the pre-existing conditions. Because those conditions had been erased. The depression that started during pregnancy, the eating disorder that worsened with each month, the anxiety that made her feel like she was drowning. All documented, all real, all destroyed. So the narrative became, Diana went crazy after having a baby. Instead of, Diana was already struggling and no one helped her. The truth was in those shredded documents, but the truth didn't serve the crown. So the truth disappeared. On the same night William was born, in a back room at St. Mary's Hospital, while Diana was screaming in labor. The palace was already rewriting her story, already deciding she didn't deserve her own reality, already choosing which version of her would be allowed to exist. And Diana never knew that on the night she became a mother, the night she fought through excruciating pain to bring her son into the world, the palace was fighting just as hard to erase her. William was born at 9:03 p.m. Diana's truth died around 2:00 a.m. Both events happened in the same building, on the same night. One was celebrated around the world. The other was shredded in secret, and Dr. Pinker carried both truths until he died. The birth of a future king, and the erasure of his mother's reality. Both happened because of him, and he never forgave himself for the second one.